What if the dream wedding you prayed for turned into a nightmare you couldn't escape from? What if the home you were promised love in became your prison? This is the haunting story of 27-year-old Ritanya, a brilliant young woman whose life ended not in peace, but in a car, alone, with tears, prayers, and poison. What happened to her was not just a tragedy, it was a warning. And it all began with a marriage worth millions, but built on lies. Ritanya was everything any parent could be proud of: educated, humble, loving. The daughter of Dowry, a self-made real estate businessman from Tirupur, Tamilnadu, Ritanya had completed her MSc in computer science and was preparing to take on the world. Her brother lived in Australia, and she was her parents' pride and joy. Life seemed to be opening its arms to her until April 2025, when she married Kevin Kumar, a man from a powerful political and business family. This was not a love marriage. It was arranged. But it was no ordinary wedding. Ritanya's father spent nearly 50 crore rupees, 300 tolas of gold, a 70 lakh rupee luxury car, and extravagant expenses that would be considered royalty in most parts of the country. But what should have been a celebration of union became the beginning of a silent war. One that no one else could hear, except Ritanya. Within days of her wedding, the illusion shattered. The house Ritanya entered was not a home, it was a cage. The walls echoed with suspicion, greed, and cruelty. Her mother-in-law began taunting her almost immediately, accusing her of bringing fake jewelry. Her father-in-law kept demanding the remaining 200 tolas of gold that were never promised. And Kevin, her husband, the one person who should have protected her, remained silent, always silent. But silence wasn't his only sin. Behind closed doors, Ritanya faced not only neglect but unspeakable abuse. She wasn't allowed to touch the phone. She couldn't step out of the house alone. She was forbidden from entering the kitchen but forced to wash dishes and clothes by hand, even though they owned a washing machine. And worst of all, she was being violated by the very man she was supposed to spend her life with. Kevin wasn't just indifferent, he was obsessed. Addicted to pornography, he forced his fantasies onto Ritanya in the name of love. But there was no love, only fear, only pain, tied hands, bruised body, crushed soul. She cried in silence because no one would hear her scream. She told her in-laws. They told her to adjust. She told her relatives. They said it was normal. But how much can a person adjust before they break? 15 days after the wedding, Ritanya returned to her parents' home. She looked different, emptier, thinner, eyes filled with a sadness too deep for words. But like many parents, Dowry and his wife thought maybe it was just early marriage blues. They sat her down, tried to encourage her, and gently pushed her back to her in-laws' house. They didn't know how serious it really was. The abuse continued. Each time she came back home, she brought more pieces of her broken self. Her father took her for a long drive to Kerala, trying to lift her spirits. She spoke hesitantly about her pain, about Kevin's behavior. But she didn't go into detail. She didn't want to be a burden. She didn't want to fail. And when her parents asked her about divorce or remarriage, she said something chilling. "Am I a dog to change partners any time I want?" That one sentence revealed the damage done, not just by Kevin, but by society. The fear of what people would say became bigger than her own suffering. Still, she was planning to go to Australia, find work, restart her life. Her resume was ready. Hope wasn't dead yet. But on 27th June 2025, something changed. That evening, A relative from Kavan's side named Nagaraj came to speak with her. For 3 hours they talked. What he told her, no one knows for sure. But after he left, her parents noticed her behavior changed. She became quiet, confused, torn. When her mother asked what was wrong, Ritanya just said, "If I leave my husband, the society will taunt you. You'll be ashamed." The words stung. Her mother, trying to help, said they'd rebuild her life. Ritanya responded with pain. "I'm not a woman who changes husbands like clothes." That night, she told her mother about the sexual abuse in detail for the first time. She even showed her the bruises. Her mother broke down. Her father didn't sleep. No one did. And yet none of them knew what was coming next. The morning of 28th June seemed normal. Ritanya told her mother she wasn't feeling well but wanted to go to the temple. She left at 9 a.m. in her car. She bought flowers. She prayed. She even bought prasad for her parents. At 12:05 p.m., she called her mother, said the temple was crowded, and promised to return within an hour. Her mother asked her to bring some curd on the way back. Ritanya said, "Okay, Mom," but Ritanya never went to the next temple. CCTV footage revealed her car was parked on a lonely road 3.5 kilometers away. Between 11:30 and 11:45 a.m., she bought pesticides used for coconut trees. Between 11:45 and 12 o'clock, she sat in her car crying, speaking to someone on the phone. Locals noticed. Then, silence. At 1 p.m., a call came to Ritanya's mother from an unknown number. "Are you Ritanya's mother?" the voice asked. "Your daughter is lying unconscious in her car. Foam is coming from her mouth. Come quickly." What happened next would destroy her parents forever. Why did Ritanya lie about going to the temple? Who was on the phone with her in those final minutes? And was this truly a suicide? Or something far more sinister? What would you do if your child sent you a goodbye 8 times, and you didn't hear it until it was too late? When Ritanya's father finally opened his phone that day, he didn't just receive messages. He received his daughter's final cries, each word soaked in pain, wrapped in fear, and whispering the truth behind her silent death. These weren't just voice notes. They were her last will, her dying declaration, and a puzzle no parent should ever have to solve. As soon as Ritanya's mother received the call from the stranger, she ran outside the shop and called her husband, Dowry. Fear surged through their bodies. Why would someone else know where their daughter was before they did? They raced through traffic. Panic drowned every breath. Dowry's phone hadn't rung all morning, but then he had an idea. Maybe Ritanya had left a WhatsApp message. He turned on mobile data. What happened next shattered him. 8 voice messages, all from Ritanya, all sent between 12 p.m. and 12:20 p.m., just minutes before her body was discovered. He clicked on the first one. "Dad, please forgive me." Her voice was trembling, crying, and full of a finality he couldn't bear to hear. He paused the playback. Something inside him broke. He knew it. This wasn't just another fight. This wasn't her asking for help. This was goodbye. He frantically called back the man who had found her. "Please, take her to the hospital. We're on the way." But it was already too late. The man's voice came back minutes later. "I'm sorry, sir. Your daughter didn't make it." The ambulance reached Chettipudur. But by then, Ritanya had passed. The doctors confirmed that she had consumed pesticide, probably the one used for coconut trees. Her heart had stopped on the way. Time of death, shortly after noon. The cruelest part? Her phone was left behind. The mobile data was off. Those voice notes, the ones that might have saved her, were stuck in limbo. If only she had taken her phone. If only data had been turned on. If only her father had heard her cries in time. So many ifs, but now, nothing could turn back time. Later that night, once they brought her body home, Anadurai gathered the strength to listen to the remaining messages. One by one, he heard his daughter break down. She spoke of the torture, the humiliation, the isolation, of how she was made to feel worthless, of how even in the toilet she wasn't left alone, of how her husband beat her, tied her up, forced himself on her, how her in-laws stood by and said nothing. But one thing stood out in every message. She wasn't blaming herself. She was telling the truth, with clarity, with purpose, and she wanted these truths to survive beyond her body. In those final words, Ritanya didn't beg for sympathy. She demanded justice. She exposed everything, how her husband watched porn all day and abused her at night, how her father-in-law told her to satisfy her husband's perversions instead of stopping him, how her mother-in-law called her jewelry fake, her worth even less, how she was kept like a prisoner, stripped of dignity, treated like a maid, not a wife. What shattered everyone the most was what she did right before she consumed poison. She wrote her parents' phone numbers on a piece of paper, pasted it on the car's windshield, so that someone could call them if anything happened. She thought about them even as she was dying. She even brought prasad from the temple. Yes, even in her final moments, she thought of feeding her parents. That's not the thinking of someone who's given up on life completely. That's the thinking of someone torn between duty and desperation. And then there was the final twist, the call. Between 11:30 and 12, CCTV footage shows her car parked near Chettipudur. Locals later confirmed she was crying on the phone with someone. At 12:05, she made her last call to her mother. She said she'd be home in an hour. But between that call and the voice notes, something happened. A final push, a trigger. Many believe that phone call could have been from her husband, that maybe he said something that broke her completely. The police have taken note of this call, but no official details have been released. Could that final call reveal the truth about whether her suicide was truly her choice, or the result of relentless mental cruelty? Within hours of her death, the police arrested Kavin Kumar and his father Ishwar Murthy. The mother-in-law, Chitra Devi, was not arrested immediately due to health reasons, but pressure from media and public outrage built rapidly. 2 days later, Chitra was also taken into custody. But justice wasn't going to be easy. Kavin's family, allegedly worth 3,000 to 4,000 crores, applied for bail almost immediately. Ritanya's parents, broken but determined, begged the court to deny it. This wasn't just a dowry harassment case anymore. It was a story of psychological murder. A woman pushed off the edge, not by a moment, but by a pattern. And the voice messages? The police had them, but they weren't included in the FIR. Ritanya's father was devastated. Those were her dying words, he said in an interview. They are her last testimony. Why are they being ignored? Perhaps the most shocking detail emerged during further interviews with her parents. After being sexually abused, Ritanya once confided in her mother-in-law. What did she do? She apologized to Ritanya and said, "This won't happen again." But the abuse did happen again. It never stopped. Even more disturbing, Kavin had confessed to his father about his sexual habits, and instead of stopping his son, Ishwar Murthy told Ritanya something horrifying. He sat her down and said, "My son wants different things in the bedroom, Please keep him happy. He kept pressuring her. From 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., non-stop. A father-in-law, speaking to his daughter-in-law about her husband's twisted fantasies, pressuring her to submit. Is there a darker image of betrayal than this? This wasn't a family. This was a nightmare disguised as respectability, a mansion where money could buy everything except humanity. And Ritanya, she endured it all, thinking maybe she could still fix it. Maybe she could still win. But in the end, the pain was too much, and society's expectations became heavier than her heart could carry. The truth is out. The messages are real. The arrests have been made. But the biggest question still lingers. Was it really suicide? Or was Ritanya pushed beyond the edge by the very people meant to protect her? They say the dead can't speak. But what if they left behind their voice, their pain, and their truth? Ritanya did. She exposed her killers with trembling words and a shattered heart. Now, the world must decide. Will her story end in justice, or get buried under power, politics, and silence? Ritanya's death sparked outrage, but it also raised uncomfortable questions. Questions that shook her community, the media, and every parent watching. How could a girl so educated, so full of dreams, fall into such a deep trap? The truth was heartbreaking. She was never given a chance to escape. Every exit was blocked by fear, by shame, by society. As the investigation continued, the facts only got darker. Police confirmed the involvement of all three family members, Kavin Kumar, Ishwar Murthy, and Chitra Devi. Initially, only dowry harassment charges were filed under Section 1943. But after media pressure and the public demand for accountability, new charges were added. Section 85 for cruelty, and Section 108 for abetment to suicide. Even then, Ritanya's family feared that powerful political influence might twist the case. After all, Kavin's family wasn't just rich. They were connected. They owned massive real estate, earned lakhs every month in rent, and had influence stretching far and wide. But despite all this money, they demanded dowry. And when they didn't get enough, they broke a woman instead. But why did they even agree to the marriage if they looked down on Ritanya's family? That answer came in a chilling revelation. Kavin's mother had allegedly said, "He's getting old now. His hair is falling. Let's settle this match before it's too late." That was their reason. Not love, not respect, just urgency. And after the wedding, they made her pay the price for not being enough. In her final weeks, Ritanya did try to save herself. She hoped her family could understand. She thought maybe time would fix things. Maybe going abroad would give her a fresh start. She even confided to her father that she'd try everything. But if nothing changed, she'd get a divorce. Her resume had already been sent to her brother in Australia. But then Nagaraj, a relative from Kavin's side, visited her. For 3 hours, he spoke to her alone. After that meeting, she changed. Her parents noticed it. Her mother was worried. She asked what he told her. Ritanya said something that crushed her mother's heart. "If I leave my husband, society will insult you. People will mock you, even in her pain." She was protecting her parents' honor. That's how deep the poison of social pressure runs. And it wasn't just guilt. She was emotionally blackmailed into believing that survival was selfish. Still, on that Friday night she opened up. For the first time, she told her mother everything. The bruises, the beatings, the unnatural sexual abuse. She even showed the scars. Her mother, devastated and furious, promised her, "We'll build a good life for you again." But perhaps it came a little too late, because by morning, Ritanya was gone. Her last day followed a tragic routine. On Saturday, June 28th, she visited 3 temples, Lakshmi Narasimha, Ayyappan, and Maundi Perumal. At each stop, she looked normal. Calm, she bought flowers. Atta Prasad, bought prasad for her parents. At 12:05 p.m., she called her mother and promised to be home in an hour. She even joked, saying, "Bring curd on the way," but the truth was different. She never went to Maundi Perumal Temple. CCTV revealed that at 11:45 a.m. her car was parked on a lonely road. She had already bought pesticide by then. Between 11:45 and 12 o'clock, locals saw her inside the car, crying while talking on the phone. The last human contact she made, before falling into silence forever. What triggered her final decision? Who was on the other side of that phone? Many suspect it was Kavan Kumar. Could it be that he said something so cruel, so horrifying, that it shattered her last hope? Or was she already planning it and just needed that final push? Even now, the police have not disclosed the identity of the caller. The call remains part of the ongoing investigation. But for Ritanya's parents, the timeline is clear. After that call, she sent the voice notes. After that call, she pasted her parents' number on the windshield. After that call, she drank poison. And still, there's more. After her death, when her parents spoke out, people mocked them. Some said they were after money. Others blamed them for sending her back. But what those people forgot was this. Ritanya wasn't silent. She fought. She came home. She told them. She tried. And every time she went back, it was because she believed in fixing what was broken, not because she was weak. What's worse is how society responded. Instead of support, there was gossip. Instead of empathy, there were whispers. Why didn't she just adjust? But how do you adjust with a man who ties you up and abuses you while your in-laws applaud from the sidelines? In the final interviews, her father broke down. She never wanted to embarrass us. That's why she kept enduring it. If only we had known the depth of her pain. And her mother? She just wept silently, repeating her daughter's name like a prayer. Mail Kunju Morni, she used to call her little princess, gone. Now, all 3 accused are in Tirupur District Jail. The court hearing is set. The country is watching. And the voices are growing louder. Number justice for Ritanya. But this story is more than a crime report. It's a mirror to our society. Why is it that when a woman speaks out, she's asked to stay quiet? Why is survival seen as shameful? Why does money silence truth and power erase pain? Ritanya's voice notes were eventually submitted in court. Public outcry forced the case to gain national attention. The court has been urged to treat her audio clips as dying declarations. Media outlets, activists, and even strangers have stood up in support. Her parents, though broken, have vowed to fight until justice is served. But here's the truth. Justice won't just be a verdict. It will be a shift in how we treat our daughters, in how we respond to pain behind closed doors, in whether we value honor more than life. If Ritanya had been your daughter, your sister, your friend, what would you have done differently? And more importantly, is our society ready to protect the next Ritanya before it's too late?